welcome to Spectrum News at 4. I am Uyai Anyakan, coming to you live from the beautiful hills of Ibiakuran. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari to address Nigerians on Sunday. Governor Emmanuel calls for support from Denmark in area of maritime security in the state. Plus, Trump to testify in New York fraud probe. Details of these stories and more in a moment. We begin the news with a report that President Muhammadu Buhari will address the nation via a live broadcast by 7 a.m. on Sunday. This was confirmed in a statement issued by the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed. He said Buhari will address the nation to commemorate this year's Democracy Day. Recall that President Muhammadu Buhari in June of 2018 directed that Nigeria's Democracy Day, marked every May 29th, be shifted to June 12 to honor Moshood Abiola, winner of the 1993 presidential election. In a related development, President Muhammadu Buhari has pledged his full and unwavering support for former Lagos State Governor Asiwaju Bola Tinubu as the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress (APC). President Buhari, who congratulated Tinubu for securing victory at the special presidential convention in primary, stressed the need for all members and leaders of the party to leave behind the hostilities that came with the primaries and unite for victory. In a statement by his senior special assistant in media and publicity, Garba Shehu, the president noted that by working together as a united team behind the flag bearer, APC will be able to stabilize to provide the platform on which the APC could deliver desired goods to Nigerians. Meanwhile, security chiefs who attended today's Security Council meeting at the Presidential Villa, Abuja, have narrowed down the perpetrators of Sunday's church killings in Owo, Ondo State, to the Islamic State of West Africa, ISWAP. Although no arrest has been made as investigations and trailings of the terrorists were still ongoing, the Minister of Interior, Rauf Aregbesola, debunks insinuations that the attacks had ethnic or religious coloration. The Security Council meeting, presided by President Muhammadu Buhari, had the Vice President Yemi Osinbajo, Secretary to the Government of the Federation Boss Mustafa, the Chief of Staff to the President, Professor Ibrahim Gambari, and the National Security Advisor, Major General Bagana Maguno, retired, in attendance. Other attendees include the Chief of Defense Staff, General Lucky Irabo, Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Farouk Yahaya, Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Hawal Gambo, and the Chief of Air Staff, Air Marshal Isaka Oludayo Amao. Also in attendance are the Inspector General of Police, Al-Khali Baba Usman, the Director General of the Department of State Services, DSS, Yusuf Bichi, and the Director General of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Ahmed Rufai Abubakar. Away from that, the National Association of Academic Technologists, NAT, has expressed its sympathy for Nigerian students over the long closure of public universities. The association's position was contained in a statement issued by its president, Comrade Ibeji Nwokoma, made available to journalists in Abuja. Nwokoma, who called for relevant stakeholders and well-meaning Nigerians to prevail on the government to bring the ongoing negotiation to a logical end, said NAT was tired of signing Memorandum of Action MOA or Memorandum of Understanding MOU with timelines that are not implemented at the end of the day, noting that the association also said the federal government should be blamed for the delay in the negotiation process to resolve the lingering strike. Still on education, the United Nations Children's Fund, in collaboration with Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office in Nigeria, has stated that despite the progress made, Nigeria is not likely to achieve the global agenda of universal, inclusive and equitable quality basic education for all school-aged children by 2030 if the current low public investment in the education sector remains the same. At a media dialogue on girls' education held in Katsina, a communication specialist at UNICEF Field Office, Mutaka, disclosed that students' learning outcomes assessment, which completed 6 cases study states by the independent evaluation in 2021, revealed that the people's proficiency in literacy is higher in only Enugu State at 600.4 against a benchmark of 500. Reports say for Nigeria to address the challenge, governments must demonstrate strong will, as well as create substantial innovative fiscal space, ensure policy reforms, so as to strengthen educational planning and coordination among various actors at all levels. Away from that, Governor Oluwartimi Akeredolu of Ondo State has pledged that the state will provide land for the mass burial of the victims of the Owo terror incident. While hosting a delegation of Catholic bishops from the southwest led by Most Reverend Leke Agbegorin, Akeredolu stated that he is yet to comprehend the reason behind such attack. Akeredolu noted that 127 people were affected during the incident, with 61 survivors still being treated in various hospitals. He also revealed that 26 people have been released and 40 reportedly died. Meanwhile, Akeredolu has said that the state government has set up a contribution account in response to a succession of calls and requests for an account number from individuals who want to help the victims and survivors' families, adding that all donations will be used wisely for the reason for which they were given. To politics now, where trouble is brewing within the Labour Party LP, as Jude Ezenwafo, a former chairman of the party in Anambra State, has been declared the winner of the presidential primary organized by a faction of the party. Ezenwafo's affirmation took place in Abuja on Wednesday. The development comes days after a former Anambra State Governor, Peter Obi, was elected as the LP's presidential candidate at a primary organized by the Julius Abure-led faction of the party. However, prior to Obi winning the primary, the chairman of another faction of the party, Callistus Okafor, challenged the legality of the Abure-led faction before an Abuja Federal High Court. In a ruling on May 30th, the presiding judge, Inyangeko, ordered that the LP and some of its executives be served with a fresh suit challenging the party's leadership. The matter was then adjourned till June 30th for further mention. Still in politics, Prince Adewale Adebayo has emerged as the Social Democratic Party candidate for the 2023 presidential election. Adebayo scored 1,526 votes at the party's national convention on Wednesday in Abuja to emerge as the party's standard bearer, defeating the only co-contestant Khadija Lamidi, who polled 83 votes. The convention returning officer Umar Ado put the total votes cast at 1,653 and valid votes were 1,609, while invalid votes were 44. In his acceptance speech, 54-year-old Adebayo, a lawyer, said his emergence indicates that it was the turn of the Nigerian masses to take over power in 2023. He said that it was the turn of the citizens without food, those who graduated without work or hindered from graduating because of the strike, to enjoy the dividends of democracy. Adebayo pledged that the SDP would give the ruling party, All Progressive Congress, and the People's Democratic Party a good fight in the 2023 general elections. Meanwhile, the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party has met former Vice President and the party's standard bearer Atiku Abubakar behind closed doors. The meeting was held in Abuja, led by the BOT chairman, Senator Walid Jibrin. Reports say the meeting may also not be unconnected to the subject of selecting a running mate for the former vice president. Recall that the BOT and the party's standard bearer had, in the aftermath of the presidential primary held in May, scheduled a meeting to discuss the subject of who will be the running mate to Abubakar. Back here, Akwa Ibom State Governor Dom Emmanuel has called for support from Denmark in the area of maritime security in the state. Governor Emmanuel made the call when the ambassador of Denmark to Nigeria, Søren Krostrup, and the resident representative of United Nations Population Fund in Nigeria, Ola Elizabeth Muela, visited him at the government house, Uyo. The governor said with the longest shoreline in the country, Akwa Ibom State has peculiar maritime security challenges and appealed to the government of Denmark to help the state in that regard. Governor Emmanuel, who commended the Danish government and the United Nations Population Fund for their support to the state, especially in the area of agriculture, childcare and healthcare, however, called for greater collaboration with the state government to ensure the success of their programs in the area. According to him, the state has invested massively to improve health facilities in the state, while relevant legal framework has also been put in place to tackle the menace of gender-based violence and protect children in the state. Earlier in a remark, the ambassador of Denmark to Nigeria and leader of the team, Søren Krostrup, said he was in the state to inspect some Danish government-funded interventions and projects in the area. Meanwhile, Akwa Ibom State government has called for the implementation of the federal government's proposed trans-border initiative aimed at stemming the tide of boundary clashes in the state. Recall that the federal government, through the National Boundary Commission (NBC), had promised to adopt a trans-border initiative where the warring communities would focus on reconciliatory efforts, while it set up critical life-touching infrastructure at the border communities so as to address the perennial problems of boundary crisis, which had claimed many lives. The Deputy Governor Moses Ekpo, in an interaction with newsmen in his office, noted that the inability of the federal government to implement the initiative had hindered the peace process among conflicting communities across Nigeria. He recalled that the Nigerian Newsprint Manufacturing Company (NNMC), established by the federal government at Okwiboku, its local government area in Akwa Ibom State, served the warring communities of Cross River State and Akwa Ibom without any rancor between them, adding that as soon as the company collapsed, hostilities resumed in the area, causing many residents to flee the area. Ekpo, however, appreciated federal donor agencies such as National Emergency Relief Management Agency (NEMA) for assisting the state government in providing relief materials to victims of the border crisis and other communities in the state. In Africa, thousands of Senegalese demonstrated Wednesday afternoon in Dakar against the rejection of the national list of the opposition for the next legislative elections and more generally against the government, AFP, journalists noted. A dense crowd largely draped in the national colors green, gold and red gathered at the Place de la Nation in a festive atmosphere of music and song as political tensions of the moment raised fears of a reawakening of passions and violence of March 2021. The main opponent to the government, Ousmane Sonko, a prior excluded from the legislative process by a recent decision of the Constitutional Council, was welcomed with cheers on his arrival on his vast esplanade stretching around a huge obelisk commemorating independence. This is the usual place for demonstrations, at a distance from the presidency and the political center. An opposition coalition has called for demonstrations against President Macky Sall on various themes. The maneuvers he is accused of using to politically eliminate his opponents, his alleged intention to run for a third term in 2024, but also price increases. Since the application for authorization to demonstrate was filed, these concerns have been joined by the issue of the participation of Mr. Sonko and a number of opposition figures in the July 31st legislative elections. The Constitutional Council created a situation fraught with uncertainty when it confirmed Friday night the rejection of the national list of Here We As Can We, led by Sonko's party. This means that Mr. Sonko, third in the 2019 presidential elections and declared candidate for the 2024 elections, will be excluded from the elections. The uncertainty maintained until the end as to whether or not to allow the demonstration on Wednesday has increased the fear of outburst. On the foreign scene, Algeria suspended Wednesday a treaty of friendship and cooperation concluded in 2002 with Spain. It is at the end of a meeting of the Algerian High Security Council, chaired by President Tinubu, that the announcement was made. Spain regretted Algiers' decision, adding it considers Algeria a friend and remained open to develop the special relationship of cooperation between the two countries. The treaty provided for the strengthening of political dialogue between Spain and Algeria and the development of cooperation in fields like economy and education. The move comes after Madrid altered its long-standing position on Western Sahara, a former Spanish colony, to back Morocco's autonomy project for Western Sahara. Algeria called it a violation of Spain's legal, moral and political obligations. The vast desert area bordering the Atlantic and Mauritania is claimed by Rabat and Western Sahara. Western Sahara clings to a self-determination referendum that was provided by the 1991 ceasefire agreement reached under the mediation of the UN in order to settle the dispute. However, Morocco suggests autonomy under its sovereignty. Still on the foreign scene, ex-President Donald Trump and his eldest children are scheduled to testify in New York's civil probe into alleged fraud at their family business from July 15. A court document showed Wednesday. New York State Attorney General Letitia James and her team of investigators will have to conclude their questioning by the following week. The filing said Trump, Donald Jr. and Ivanka have until June 13 to appeal to New York State's highest court for a stay. According to the document filed by a lower court, the trio have been fighting in courts to avoid having to give evidence under oath in James's tax evasion probe, which they argue is politically motivated. New York State Judge Arthur Engoron ruled in February that the trio must testify, rejecting a plea by the Trumps to quash subpoenas issued by James. She suspects the Trump organization fraudulently overstated the value of real estate properties when applying for bank loans, while understating them with the tax authorities in order to pay less in taxes. The Trumps have denied any wrongdoing. Last month, the former president paid $1,110 fine for refusing to provide accounting and tax documents as part of the civil probe. If James, a Democrat, finds any evidence of financial misconduct, she can sue the Trump Organization for damages but cannot file criminal charges. James's probe is one of the several legal battles in which Trump is embroiled, threatening to complicate any bid for another run for the White House in 2024. The Trump Organization is also under investigation by the Manhattan District Attorney for possible financial crimes and insurance fraud. Last July, the Trump Organization and its long-serving finance chief, Alan Wilsberg, pleaded not guilty in a New York court to 15 felony fraud and tax evasion charges. Meanwhile, 10 people have died in central China as torrential rains lashed Hunan province, forcing the evacuation of hundreds of thousands. State media reported the downpours, which began on June 1st, have forced the evacuation of around 286,000 people, with more than 2,700 homes collapsed or seriously damaged. Reports say as of Wednesday, 10 people were killed and 3 were missing. Meanwhile, authorities have sent tents, foldable beds, food and clothing to striking areas. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll bring you the rest of the news. Do stay with us. Much thanks for staying tuned. On our business news, operators in the oil and gas sector as well as other stakeholders are uncomfortable with the continued rise in the amount spent in subsidizing premium motor spirit, popularly called petrol, as it jumped to 947.51 billion naira between January and April 2022. An analysis of data obtained from the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited on Wednesday showed a monthly rise in PMS subsidy spendings by the oil firm. Through NNPC, described it as under-recovery value shortfall. It was also gathered that the oil firm had informed the Federation Account Allocation Committee that it would deduct an estimated value shortfall of 874.5 billion naira in the May 2022 proceed due for sharing at the June 2022 FAAC meeting. NNPC has been the sole importer of petrol into Nigeria for several years running. The firm has also been subsidizing the commodity all these years. The President, Petroleum Products Retail Outlets Owners Association of Nigeria, Billy Gillis Harry, explained that the actual cost of petrol without subsidy was usually a little higher than that of diesel. He told the correspondents that if not for subsidy, PMS would be selling around 550 naira to 600 naira per litre, going by the international cost of crude oil and the fluctuations in foreign exchange. The approved subsidized pump price of PMS in Nigeria is between 162 to 165 per litre, but all marketers stated that the actual cost should be a little higher or about the same price of diesel had it been PMS was deregulated. Latest figures obtained from the NNPC in Abuja showed how the amount spent on fuel subsidy grew from January to April this year. Still in business, manufacturing companies have said they cannot access loans at the Central Bank of Nigeria's 5% lending rate under its intervention scheme for manufacturing and other critical sectors. According to them, the loans have structural framework problems and are almost never accessed in banks at 5%. They added that banks were more open to giving manufacturers loans at their official market rates. Speaking with The Punch, the chairman of Manufacturers Association of Nigeria's Electrical Electronic Sectoral Group, Mrs. Ijoma Oduonye, said efforts made by her firm towards accessing the intervention funds through one of its designated commercial banks had proved abortive. She said, before now, we tried to work through one of the banks, but it didn't materialize. Now we are talking with another bank. It is a sector intervention fund that was going for 9% before, but now they brought it to 5%. But we as a company have not accessed it because the commercial banks we wanted to process it could not process it. Away from that, an expert, Professor Oladele Osibajo, has warned that Nigerians are ingesting plastic through fish consumption as a result of the amount of plastic waste being dumped in the oceans. He said this in Abeokuta, Ogun State, while delivering his paper titled Living Sustainably in Harmony with Nature, Curbing the Menace of Climate Change, Biodiversity, Laws and Public Waste, as a part of activities marking the 2022 World Environment Day. Osibacho, the managing director of Juwura Environmental Services Limited, was represented by Dr. Olumide Onofeso. He lamented the high disregard for the environment in areas of waste disposal and planting of trees. Osibajo called for precautionary care for the environment, adding that the money spent on fixing the environment is more than what can be spent to prevent it. Earlier in his address, the Ogun State Governor Dapo Abiodun, represented by the head of service Neofio Igoro, said the state was in the forefront of protecting the environment. Igoro disclosed the state government had spent 2 billion naira on the management of the environment. In health, the risk of monkeypox becoming established in non-endemic nations is real, the WHO warned Wednesday, with more than 1,000 cases now confirmed in such countries. World Health Organization chief Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said the UN Health Agency was not recommending mass vaccination against the virus and added that no deaths had been reported so far from the outbreaks. The risk of monkeypox becoming established in non-endemic countries is real, Tedros told a press conference. The zoonotic disease is endemic in humans in 9 African countries, but outbreaks have been reported in the past month in several other states, mostly in Europe and notably in Britain, Spain and Portugal. Tedros said he was particularly concerned about the risk the virus poses to vulnerable groups, including pregnant women and children. He said the sudden and unexpected appearance of monkeypox outside endemic countries suggested that there might have been undetected transmission for some time, but it was not known for how long. In sports, Lyon has announced the return of Alexandre Lacazette on a free transfer after the forward left Arsenal. The forward's contract at the Emirates Stadium was due to expire at the end of this month and has moved back to the club he began his career at before moving to Arsenal in 2017. Lacazette has signed a 3-year deal at the French club, and his arrival in a coup for Lyon, who finished 8th in League One this season and will not compete in Europe in the upcoming campaign. Still in sports, Manchester United have made an opening offer to Barcelona for midfielder Frenkie de Jong. Reports suggest United's offer is €60 million and €20 million in add-ons, which is close to Barca's valuation, and that the Spanish club are studying the proposal. On entertainment, Nigerian singer Mr. Eazi left fans anticipating the release of his new song, which is scheduled to be out on Friday, June 10. To make it even more interesting, photos from the music video showed his wife-to-be and billionaire daughter Temi Otedola will be featuring in it. This has left many of the singer's fans and followers gushing as they took to social media to applaud him while they wait for the music to be out. And that's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, SpectrumTv.ng. You have been watching Spectrum News at 4. I am Uyai Anyek, and thanks for watching, and do enjoy the rest of your day.